Every year, 5 million visitors stand on the rim of the Grand Canyon, look in, and walk away. But to really experience the canyon, you have to walk down through its magnificent halls, past the skeletons of old volcanoes, along ancient beaches that have not seen the sun for 500 million years. This is the Hiker's Canyon. Whether you are planning your own hike or just want to see the canyon from a hiker's point of view, this video is for you. Hiking the Grand Canyon is not for everyone, but everyone can come. With the right preparation, it will be an experience to treasure for a lifetime. The Grand Canyon of the Colorado River is located in northern Arizona. 6 million years of erosion has cut this gash into our planet's crust. The Colorado River travels 277 miles from one end of the canyon to the other, and in some places the river flows over a mile below the rim. Millions of homes in the southwestern United States depend on the Colorado River for water. Lake Powell and Lake Mead border the canyon on the east and west, but none of this water is available to either rim, making the canyon a very dry place. At Lee's Ferry, the canyon rises out of the Colorado River. Lee's Ferry is one of just 2 places where you can drive a car up to the bank of the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. All Grand Canyon river trips begin here. Just 4 miles southwest of Lee's Ferry is the Navajo Bridge, the only place where you can drive across the canyon from rim to rim. There are just 2 more bridges across the Colorado between here and the end of the canyon, and they are for hikers and mules. By this point, the canyon has begun a theme that will be repeated again and again. Millions of gallons of water flowing by within a stone's throw of a parched desert. Flowing south, the river cuts through the marble platform, a dry, forbidding place where access to the rim is limited to drivers with serious off-road equipment. About 67 miles south of the Navajo Bridge, the river turns abruptly to the west. Standing on the rim at Desert View, you can see the river almost a mile below and the north rim 8 miles away. This is one of the last places along the rim where a large section of the river is visible. Just 17 miles further down the river is Grand Canyon, Arizona. 5 million visitors a year come here to look over the rim and see this classic view of the Grand Canyon. At this point, the river is rarely visible as it is out of sight in the deep inner gorge. Ironically, many visitors leave, never understanding what a very small part of the canyon they have seen. Some even believe that this section is the entire canyon. From here to the end of the canyon, the river cuts through 200 miles of very difficult terrain. In this distance, only a few roads approach the rim, and most of these require a high-clearance, 4-wheel drive vehicle. The canyon ends at the Grand Wash Cliffs as the Colorado River spills into Lake Mead, the reservoir created by Hoover Dam. The magic of animation has allowed us to present a general view of the canyon, but no picture, video, or animation can begin to communicate the immense size of the canyon. We can measure its miles and count its canyons, but the numbers run out of meaning. For instance, the general region of the Grand Canyon covers about 10,000 square miles, but have you counted 10,000 of anything lately? Just getting to the canyon presents a few tactical problems. You can fly into Las Vegas, Phoenix, Flagstaff, or Grand Canyon. Adding up the flight times, connection delays, and driving times, it's a full day's travel just to reach the canyon from most places in the United States. Even though the region of the Grand Canyon covers 10,000 square miles, it is this small section that gets most of the tourists and hikers. This 200 square mile area contains the main destinations and trails that we will be looking at. The three main trails into the canyon are the 7-mile, 11.25-kilometer South Kaibab Trail, the 9.3, 15-kilometer Bright Angel Trail, and the 14-mile, 22.7-kilometer North Kaibab Trail. All three trails end at the bottom of the canyon at the Colorado River near the Bright Angel Campground and Phantom Ranch. These two destinations each offer different services to the hiker. Bright Angel Campground is the more primitive of the two. It has drinking water, restrooms, and campsites for tents complete with picnic tables and food storage lockers. A National Park Service backcountry use permit is required to camp here. Less than a quarter mile to the north of Bright Angel Campground is Phantom Ranch, the best-known destination in the canyon. For the walk-in hiker, Phantom Ranch has water, lemonade, restrooms, and a pay telephone. Hot breakfasts and dinners are available at specific times with advance reservations. You can stay overnight in a cabin, which includes a key to the showers.
You will need to make reservations 23 months in advance. Phantom Ranch is operated by Zenterra Parks and Resorts.
Two other destinations inside the canyon of interest to the hiker are Indian Gardens on the Bright Angel Trail and Cottonwood Campground on the North Kaibab Trail. Each offers the hiker drinking water, restrooms, and campsites. These campgrounds also require National Park Service permits. Together, these four facilities handle 85,000 visitors a year. That's right, 85,000. The National Park Service campgrounds all have ranger stations, but a ranger may not always be present due to emergencies or regular patrols. There are two main destinations on the canyon rims. On the south rim, there's the Grand Canyon Village. When you mail something to Grand Canyon, Arizona, this is where it goes. When people say that they have been to the south rim of the Grand Canyon, they probably came here. On any given hike into the canyon, you will either begin here, end here, eat here, sleep here, park here, or a combination of all of the above. But before every hike, it's a good idea to check trail conditions and review your plans with the experts at the backcountry office before going in. You can call them in the afternoon between 1 and 5 or visit them in person between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m.
You then need to locate the Inner Canyon Shop, which is hidden away inside the Canyon Village Marketplace, and top off your supplies.
They are the only completely stocked outfitter within 60 miles. They rent and sell any equipment you need and have a knowledgeable, friendly staff that can answer a wide range of questions. On the North Rim, there's North Rim, Arizona. At this point, the canyon is 10 miles wide as the crow flies, 24 miles on foot or by mule, or you can drive 214 miles around the east end of the canyon to travel between the rims. The layers of rock that make up the canyon tilt to the north, making the North Rim 1,400 feet or 424 meters higher than the South Rim. The North Rim gets so much snow in the winter that the road to the rim is closed after the first big winter storm, which usually comes any time from early October to November. The park remains closed until the roads are passable again in mid-May. Together, the South Kaibab, Bright Angel, and North Kaibab are referred to as the Corridor Trails and are maintained by the National Park Service. Here is an example of a corridor trail, something like a dirt staircase. In this video, we will only be discussing the 3 maintained corridor trails. The corridor trails are well-traveled and even offer restrooms in strategic locations. They are generally open for hiking any day of the year, but in the heat of the summer, the National Park Service will restrict trailhead start times to the early morning or late afternoon. You can also expect trails to be closed any time of the year for extended periods without notice for repair due to washouts or rock slides. There are other trails in the canyon in addition to the corridor trails. These trails are not maintained by anyone but Mother Nature. You should be aware that conditions on unmaintained trails range from narrow footpaths on unstable scree to free climbs to inching your way along precipitous exposures. Even experienced hikers should get familiar with the challenges of desert hiking and canyon hiking on the corridor trails before attempting a remote, unmaintained trail. In addition, don't hike alone, even on the corridor trails. And if you value your friends, don't split up. Canyon hiking is desert hiking, and you can dehydrate in a few hours. Dehydration will result in irrational behavior, and minor problems can trigger uncontrollable panic. A lone hiker who panics can easily sustain a life-threatening injury. Of course, if a hiker gets hurt, there's no doubt that park rangers will make every effort to get them out to safety. But with 450 rescues a year, the rangers may be busy saving someone else. You may not be able to carry out an injured friend, but keeping them safe until rescue arrives could save their life. There's one absolute truth about hiking the canyon. There are no easy trails in the canyon. All the trails are strenuous and require a high level of physical and mental conditioning to really enjoy. But perhaps the most important requirement is a strong dose of patience. When you hike the canyon, you can either rush through the experience, barely noticing where you've been, or you can take your time and smell the flowers along the way. In reality, there are no destinations in the canyon, only cabins or campsites. The canyon is your destination, and this may be the only time that you get to see it. Sure, most people know they want to slow down and see the canyon, but there's a catch. Something about the canyon makes hikers rush to finish the trail. The overwhelming size seems to hurry their footsteps when they should be taking their time. There's no sure cure for this need-to-be-there attitude, but knowing about where you are, how far you have to go, and how long it will take you to get there will make it easier to slow down and experience the canyon. But knowing where you are in the canyon isn't easy at first. The canyon is a vast ocean of air and rock, without roads, cars, or buildings. Beautiful, awesome, and disconcerting, it's easy to understand the hiker's disorientation. Fortunately for the hiker, this part of the canyon can be divided into 5 sections. 3 sections that are essentially cliffs and 2 sections that are slopes. As you might imagine, reducing the canyon to 5 sections is an oversimplification, but it helps the hiker form a mental image, and it works because it relates directly to the layers of rock that make up the central part of the canyon. Each one of the 5 sections represents a massive volume of rock and space. To appreciate how massive, we'll take a moment and consider the geological makeup of the canyon. Each section is made up of 2 or more geological divisions. The cliffs of the first section consist of 3 geological divisions: the Kaibab Formation, Toroweap Formation, and the Coconino Sandstone. These cliffs begin at the rim and drop 1,000 vertical feet. The slope of the second section is made up of 2 geological divisions: the deep red, mostly shale Hermit Formation, and the Supai Group, a mixture of rusty sandstone, siltstone, and limestone. It's about 1,250 feet from the top of the Hermit to the bottom of the Supai. The cliffs of the third section are made up of 2 geological divisions. The imposing Redwall limestone cliffs are about 450 feet thick. The 35-foot thick Temple Butte Formation is usually invisible to the hiker as it blends in with the red wall in most places. Without the constant wash of red color from above, these magnificent cliffs would be a drab gray. The slope of the fourth section is a prominent feature in the canyon. It is named the Tonto Platform. From a hiker's point of view, the Tonto Platform ends at the edge of the inner gorge. But from a geological viewpoint, the feature which relates to the Tonto Platform is the Tonto Group. It extends from just below the Temple Butte Formation to just above the Vishnu Schist of the inner gorge. The Tonto Group is made up of the Muav limestone, Bright Angel Shale, and the Tapete sandstone. The Tonto Group is about 1,000 feet thick. You will note that in this part of the canyon, the layers above are gone, except for the red wall limestone. That's because the Supai Group, Permit Formation, Coconino Sandstone, Toroweap Formation, and Kaibab Formation have all been washed down the slopes of the granite inner gorge into the Colorado River and out to sea. The cliffs of the last section are named the Inner Gorge. Again, from a hiker's point of view, the Inner Gorge begins here, at the edge of the Tonto Platform, and includes the Tapetes sandstone. But from a geological viewpoint, the two main features of the Inner Gorge are the Great Unconformity and the 1.7 billion-year-old Vishnu Group. The Vishnu Group consists of black Vishnu schist with intrusions of Zoroaster granite. The Great Unconformity is the name for the 1.2 billion years worth of rock layers that are missing between the Tapetes and Vishnu schist. Compared with the canyon itself, this gash in the Vishnu schist is small, about 2,000 feet wide and 1,000 feet deep. Geology and the canyon go together like salt and pepper, and regular canyon hikers know the rock layers by sight. But you can see that from the first-time hiker's point of view, the simple shape map is a more useful concept for orientation than the formal geological layers. Throughout the rest of this video, we'll use the shape map as a reference, and we'll use the following names for each section. Section 1, which consists of the Kaibab Formation, Toroweap Formation, and Coconino Sandstone layers, will be referred to as the Upper Cliffs. Section 2, the Hermit Formation and Supai Group, will be referred to as the Supai-Hermit Interval. Section 3, the Red Wall Limestone and Temple Butte Formation, the Red Wall. Section 4, the Muav Limestone and Bright Angel Shale, the Tonto Platform. Section 5, the Tapete Sandstone and Vishnu Group as the Inner Gorge. We will now take a look at each of the corridor trails. This is the most famous 200 square miles of wilderness in the world. Millions of people stand on the rim each year, look in, and walk away. Their eyes cannot translate this ocean of air and rock into a reality their minds can comprehend. But thousands of footsteps and hours on the trail, watching the canyon unfold, gives the hiker a different perspective. The first trail we'll look at is the South Kaibab. The South Kaibab begins at an elevation of 7,200 feet and in a little over 7 miles drops 9/10 of a mile to arrive at the Bright Angel campground. There are 4 important points to remember about the South Kaibab. First, the South Kaibab is a dry trail. There is no water anywhere along the trail except at the Colorado River. Plan on carrying and drinking 3 liters of water hiking in and up to 7 liters of water hiking out. Second, the South Kaibab trailhead is just a trailhead. There is a small parking lot, a pay telephone, and an outdoor toilet. The nearest civilization is 4 miles away at the Park Visitor Center. Plan on taking a National Park Service shuttle or private taxi to and from the South Kaibab trailhead. Third, while many trails into the canyon follow routes discovered by Native Americans who knew firsthand about hiking and survival in the canyon, the South Kaibab Trail was built for pack mules, not people on foot. It is steep and has very little shade. And fourth, unless you have extensive desert or canyon hiking experience, never hike out of the canyon on the South Kaibab in the summer. In spite of these problems, when you hike in on the South Kaibab, the canyon is always in front of you. No other trail offers this view. The upper part of the South Kaibab Trail follows a ridge, and there are places where you will be able to see east, west, north, and down into the canyon. You can divide the South Kaibab into the 5 sections of the shape map. The trail down through the upper cliffs is about a mile in length and takes less than an hour. It travels along the east side of a canyon that is a mile wide and 3,000 feet deep. If your stay in the canyon is too short to consider a full hike, then a half-day hike on this part of the South Kaibab is your best choice to experience the canyon. It is excellent for anyone who is reasonably fit and not afraid of heights. The trail down through the upper cliffs is warm and dry in the summer, cool and dry in the spring and fall. But in the winter it will be snow and ice covered, and you should plan on renting instep crampons at the inner canyon shop. Hikers report that hiking into the canyon is more demanding than hiking out. Knee problems are common and lower leg pain is normal. By the time you reach the Tonto platform just 4 miles from the rim, the constant descent will be causing you pain in your lower legs. These problems can be reduced by downhill conditioning with your pack before you arrive and by stopping to rest, drink, and snack for 10 minutes out of every hour. But you have to take these breaks in the first few miles, not after leg pain begins slowing you down. Ahead is Cedar Ridge. It marks the end of the upper cliffs, and it is a natural rest stop along the trail. There are restrooms, but no water. By the time you reach Cedar Ridge, you will have begun to understand how overwhelming the canyon is and will be tempted to hurry your pace. It's difficult to generalize about hiking times in the canyon. A rule of thumb is 2 miles per hour downhill and a mile per hour uphill, and probably a little slower on a trail as steep as the South Kaibab. At this point, the trail moves to the east side of Cedar Ridge and starts down through the slope of the Supai Hermit Interval, and finally travels across the top of the red wall. This part of the trail is less than 2 miles in length and takes about an hour. There are no restrooms or water sources anywhere in this section. From a distance, the trail down through the Supai Hermit Interval appears to follow a smooth, easy slope. The hard red wall limestone has carried the Supai's soft, crumbling layers a mile and a half out into the canyon before giving up and breaking away itself. But nothing is easy in the canyon. Up close, the Supai Hermit Interval is more like a staircase built for giants, made passable to ordinary mortals by occasional piles of rubble. Near the end of the Supai Hermit Interval, you'll reach Mormon Flats. Here the red shale and limestone have been completely worn away, leaving just the gray, red wall limestone. From a distance you can clearly see where the red color stops. But up close, as you walk along the top of the red wall, you'll only be aware that for the moment the trail has leveled out, a tremendous relief to your legs. Enjoy it while you can. It's about 3 miles and 2,700 feet downhill from here to the river, and in that distance the trail only levels out long enough to tease your aching legs. Next comes the descent through the cliffs of the Redwall limestone. In the entire canyon, there are less than 200 known breaks in the Redwall where hikers can pass or climb through. By this point on the trail, you will understand that for all of its beauty, the Grand Canyon of the Colorado River is a desert. And in this desert, the single greatest hazard and cause of misery is simply not drinking enough water. Mild dehydration will cut your stamina and increase your aches and pains. More severe dehydration will cause emotional instability and poor judgment, which can easily result in serious injury or death. Hiking the canyon is a physical and emotional challenge. To be safe, it requires self-discipline, planning, and careful execution. There's no distinct break in the trail as you reach the Tonto platform, but as you pass through the last of the red wall switchbacks, the terrain changes to a slope covered with black brush, cactus, and yucca plants. At this point, you are about halfway between the rim and Bright Angel Campground. Near the edge of the inner gorge, you'll cross the Tonto Trail. The Tonto Trail is an unmaintained, dry, difficult pathway that meanders along the Tonto platform for 95 miles. It goes up, down, around and through almost every minor drainage. From the top of the red wall, out across the Tonto platform, to the edge of the inner gorge is about 1.5 miles, or about an hour in hiking time. On the South Kaibab, the trail plunges into the inner gorge almost head first. Early explorers described the inner gorge as a dark and gloomy place where sunlight rarely came. But sunlight does reach the inner gorge. Between the spring and autumn equinox, the sun is so high in the sky that there is no shade, and the dark, narrow walls create a solar oven where temperatures often reach 120 degrees Fahrenheit, almost 50 degrees Celsius. Your first stop on this part of the trail will be Panorama Point. True to its name, the entire north side of the canyon is laid out before you, and looking down, you get a heart-stopping view of your destination. Just a little over an hour, 2 miles on the trail, and 1,150 feet below. If you have been drinking your water, resting, and snacking, this last part of the trail is simply fantastic. If not, you'll be simply miserable. Your legs will be killing you, your knees will be screaming, and if you're dehydrated, you'll be literally hiking on the edge of disaster. But after all, that's what planning and preparation is for, to avoid unpleasantness. Hiking from the rim to the river on the South Kaibab can take between 4 to 6 hours, depending on your conditioning, hydration, and skill. In the spring, fall, and winter, you can spend most of the day on the trail enjoying the canyon. But in the summer, you should get to the Colorado River by 10 a.m. before the heat of the day sets in. That means leaving from the trailhead before sunrise. One way or the other, you will discover that there is never enough time in the canyon. The end of the trail always comes too soon. Just 10 miles to the north is Another World and the beginning of the North Kaibab Trail. The geologic feature that connects both rims of the canyon is the huge Bright Angel Fault. Something far beneath the surface has pushed the ground up, making the north rim over 1,400 feet higher than the south rim, and cracking the earth in the process. Once cracked, water from the north rim created the 8-mile-long Bright Angel Canyon and a few side canyons that would be considered large anywhere else. The North Kaibab Trail is best used as the first leg of a trans-canyon hike. It begins at an elevation of 8,241 feet and in 14 miles drops over a mile to arrive at the Bright Angel Campground. There are 4 important points to remember about the North Kaibab. First, drinking water is available at the trailhead, Supai Tunnel, Roaring Springs, and Cottonwood Campground. There is also water in the Bright Angel Creek along the lower part of the trail all year round, but it should be treated and filtered before you drink it. Second, the North Kaibab Trailhead has a parking lot, an outdoor toilet, and drinking water. Third, the north rim is closed in the winter due to heavy snows. And fourth, while the animation will travel from the river to the rim in 30 seconds, When you hike the canyon, plan on 2 days with an overnight stay here at Cottonwood Campground. The North Kaibab Trailhead is located at the rim of Roaring Springs Canyon, one of those small side canyons. So small that you could fit the Empire State Building right here and not be able to see it from the trailhead. Hiking in from the North Rim presents some tactical problems if you want to arrive at and leave from the South Rim. Fortunately, there's a shuttle service that offers a daily round trip between the rims. For a one-way fare of $60, it leaves the South Rim in the early afternoon and gets to the North Rim in the early evening. Here's the layout of the North Rim. The National Park Service Ranger Station is here, and 1/2 mile across the ridge is the North Kaibab Trailhead. The campground for tents and campers is here, about a mile from the trailhead. As with all things in the canyon, it's best to have reservations in advance. The Grand Canyon Lodge is here. 500,000 visitors a year, coffee, great steaks, and hotel rooms. Hiking in on the first day from the trailhead to Cottonwood Campground is about 7 miles on the trail and a descent of 4,200 feet, roughly the same and just as difficult as the complete rim-to-river hike on the South Kaibab. While the Ridge Trail of the South Kaibab pummels you with its wide, classic panoramic views of the canyon, the drainage trail of the North Kaibab is much more subtle, even intimate. Its beauty is hidden at first by the fine lace of a forest, teased at by an occasional opening, and finally served up like a 7-course meal, one surprise after another. Most of those surprises are pleasant, but a few may not be. For instance, the weather can surprise you in a canyon. The moment you hike below the rim in any canyon, you can't see all of the sky. But rain on the rims, whether you see it or not, can cause a flash flood that will really get your attention. We've said that the canyon is a desert, and it's usually dry. Well, it is, except when it isn't. In a flash flood, waterfalls cascade from above, and part of the trail can be covered in a few minutes with rushing water. Water that can bounce 400-pound boulders around like golf balls and sweep a hiker off their feet to a nasty fall. If you're caught in a flood in the canyon, stay away from moving water. Stop hiking, get above the high water mark, seek shelter from falling rocks, and stay put until the water stops. You can track your progress on this part of the trail by watching the dividing line between the Coconino Sandstone and the Red Hermit Shale, which marks the end of the upper cliffs. But a much more compelling landmark is the Supai Tunnel. The tunnel is about 1,400 vertical feet and about 1.7 miles from the trailhead, about an hour of hiking time. This rest stop has drinking water and restrooms. Passing through the tunnel is like walking through a doorway. The nature of the trail changes abruptly from woodland to rock garden. While a flood may surprise you in the canyon, there is one danger that is never a surprise. That is the deadly heat of late spring, summer, and early fall. Hiking the canyon mixes a hot, dry desert environment with strenuous physical activity, a potentially deadly combination. In the canyon, heat injures, disables, and kills more people every year than any other hazard. 800 vertical feet below the Supai Tunnel, about a mile on the trail and a half-hour from here, is the Red Wall Bridge. The bridge spans a gap in the red wall. From here, you can see the slope of the Supai Group and the beginning of the sheer Red Wall Cliffs. If I had to pick my favorite section of the 3-corridor trails, it would be the Red Wall section of the North Kaibab. It is simply breathtaking. The massive limestone columns suggest an ancient temple, fashioned 1,000,000 years ago by the wind and rain. And since the Red Wall section is roughly halfway to Cottonwood Campground, it is also a good place to make sure that you are drinking enough liquids. That's because the dry heat of the canyon injures and kills people simply because they won't, don't, or can't drink the right amounts of liquids. Not too little, but not too much. Any amount of dehydration can ruin a perfect day. Even in moderate weather, a little dehydration reduces your stamina and increases the risk of hypothermia. But in summer heat, dehydration can quickly lead to heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and finally, heat stroke. Heat stroke cooks your body in its own heat. Even if you survive heat stroke, you can be permanently disabled. Dehydration has also been known to make people think that they can fly. They just want to lean out and spread their wings. And when you hike the canyon, watch your friends and have them watch you. Headache, nausea, and sudden mood swings are all signs of dehydration. Find shade, stop hiking, rest, eat, and drink until the symptoms pass. But too much plain water can be just as bad. Cases of hyponatremia or salt imbalance have become more common as hikers have become more aware of the need to drink large quantities of water. The best solution to this dilemma is to drink sports drinks, mixed half-strength, and snack regularly. These drinks provide energy, electrolytes, and get water into your system quicker, while the snacks provide additional salts and minerals. But avoiding dehydration is still up to you. No matter what season it is, make it a habit to take a drink every 15 minutes. 5 miles from the trailhead is the turnoff to the Roaring Springs picnic area. The picnic area is a good day hike destination. It is about 3,200 vertical feet and 3 hours on the trail. Allow 6 hours to hike out. Gushing out of the Moab limestone, Roaring Springs marks the end of the Red Wall and the beginning of the Tonto Group. From the Roaring Springs turnoff to Cottonwood Campground is still another 1,000-foot descent, 2 miles and an hour on the trail. There's no broad Tonto platform on the North Kaibab, but the switchbacks melt into a sloping trail as you pass through the layers of the Tonto Group. As you cross the bridge over Bright Angel Creek and enter Bright Angel Canyon, you are partway through the Tapete Sandstone, the bottom layer in the Tonto Group. From the other side, there's a view of the Tapete Sandstone Cliffs, the beginning of the Tonto platform that lines the Bright Angel Canyon, and the Red Wall limestone. The Tapete Sandstone Cliffs on this part of the trail are a dark red and have a freshly chiseled appearance. This is very different from the weather-worn tapetes we saw on the edge of the inner gorge. That's because the Tapete sandstone on the inner gorge is supported by the hard, tough Vishnu schist, which holds it up to the weather. But here, the cliffs are supported by a soft layer which erodes quickly. As that support is removed, the sandstone breaks off, leaving fresh, sheer cliffs. That soft layer is the top layer of the Unkar Group, a 1.2 billion years old, 1,200-foot thick formation that makes up the geology for the next 4.5 miles on the trail. That's Cottonwood Campground just ahead. Because of the protecting hills and reliable source of water, this area has been inhabited by people for many years. There are sites of archaeological significance that are protected by federal law and should be left undisturbed. Just north of the campground is a great view of the South Rim and the Bright Angel Fault. Follow the line of the upper cliffs. See how the two cliff sections don't meet in the middle? The fault is along this line. The cliff to the west is about 200 feet higher than the cliff to the east. The Bright Angel Trail follows this fault out of the canyon. Cottonwood Campground has a ranger station which is closed during the winter. A ranger may be present during the rest of the year unless they're out on patrol. Keep in mind that the Cottonwood Campground area is subject to flash flooding. Cottonwood Campground is open all year round. It has water, restrooms, food boxes, and picnic tables. From Cottonwood Campground, it's an easy 7-mile afternoon hike to Phantom Ranch or Bright Angel Campground. Well, it's as easy as any hike in the canyon. 1.5 miles to the south of Cottonwood, on the west side of the canyon, is Ribbon Falls. At Ribbon Falls, you can see the dramatic tilt of the Ankar group. Flowing out of the hills above, Ribbon Falls has been here long enough to create a huge travertine deposit beneath it. That's the footbridge to the falls below. The bare ground is the watermark of the '95 spring flood, which closed the trail for several months. There's evidence of this gully washer all the way along the trail. 1.5 to 2 miles south of Ribbon Falls, the creek and the trail plunge into the granite walls of the box. The box is a young inner gorge. The box is about 3 miles long and a dangerous place to be during flash flood conditions. It may seem like a David and Goliath story, the small creek persevering over tremendous odds to cut this channel, but it's not. For example, in December of 1966, 14 inches of rain fell on the north rim, which already had 2 feet of snow. Water rushed into the box, and this little creek carried as much water as the Colorado River does at low stage. The flood scoured the walls of the box and tore up a recently installed pipeline. You can bet that after the flood, the box was a little bit wider and a little bit deeper, and the trail needed a lot of repair, but that's progress in the canyon. Phantom Ranch is about a 1/2 mile from the end of the box. You can get a hot meal if you make reservations on the rim before you hike in, and you need to arrive by dinner time. In the evening, the Phantom Ranch Canteen opens with snacks, lemonade, and beer. It's a great chance to meet a diverse group of people from around the world. The last trail we will be looking at is the trail out of the canyon, the Bright Angel Trail. The Bright Angel Trail is a south rim drainage trail. The Bright Angel Trailhead is located in Grand Canyon Village, 5.5 miles west of the South Kaibab Trailhead. The view from the Bright Angel Trail is not as wide open as the view from the South Kaibab Trail, but there is more shade, shelter, and water, 3 things that are more important on the hike out. The Bright Angel Trail begins at an elevation of 6,860 feet and drops 0.8 of a mile in 9.3 miles to reach Bright Angel Campground. 4 important points to remember about the Bright Angel are: first, water is available all year round at Indian Gardens. There is also water at the 3-mile and 1.5-mile rest houses in the spring, summer, and fall. Second, the Bright Angel Trailhead is 340 feet lower than the South Kaibab Trailhead and almost 1,400 feet lower than the North Kaibab Trailhead. Third, the Bright Angel Trailhead is located in the Grand Canyon Village. That means hot coffee or ice cream at the end of your hike out of the canyon. And fourth, when mules pass, follow the wrangler's instructions, stand quietly on the side of the trail away from the edge, and beware, mules kick to the side without warning. At its beginning, the Bright Angel Trail crosses and then follows the Colorado River for 1.5 miles. You will gain a little elevation along the river and then lose it all before turning south at Pipe Creek. While looking over the trail, it's a good time to talk about what it takes to hike out of the canyon on any trail. We've talked about water, carry it and drink it, the weather, you can't see it coming, and now it's time to talk about energy. The total energy required to hike out of the canyon is about the same as running a marathon. The only difference is the pace, and pace is the key to hiking out of the canyon. People in excellent condition who are carrying a pack, acclimatized to the altitude, drinking enough liquids, and eating correctly can hike from the river to the rim in under 4 hours during moderate weather. That's a little better than 2 miles per hour, and it's like speed reading War and Peace. If this is the only time you'll see the canyon, slow down and enjoy it. You'll get to the rim soon enough, and you'll still look back and wonder why you hurried out. But maintaining a slow pace in the canyon is difficult. Being below the rim is both exhilarating and intimidating. It's a constant mental battle to avoid rushing out of the canyon, a battle that most hikers seem to lose. A good pace to maintain is 1 mile per hour, just fast enough to get your heart rate and breathing up, but still maintain a normal conversation. Make rest stops often and look at the canyon around you. By the way, you're close to the right pace if you're getting passed by all the other hikers. But there are more than aesthetic reasons to slow down. A slower pace is also a safer pace. On a hot summer day, a fast pace makes you hotter and encourages dehydration, which increases your risk for heat exhaustion or even heat stroke. On a cold winter day, a fast pace dries you out and invites exhaustion, which increases your risk for hypothermia. In any weather, a slow pace allows you to breathe just through your nose, which conserves water. Keep your mouth closed and moist by sucking on hard candy. Oddly enough, hypothermia while hiking out of the canyon is a possibility even in July, the hottest month of the year. The combination of too fast a pace, dehydration, and altitude can bring even a conditioned person to the edge of exhaustion before they reach the rim. Then a cool thunderstorm or a cold snap near the rim finishes the job, and poof, they're a drag-out statistic for the search and rescue rangers. To reduce the possibility of injury on the hike out, control your pace, snack, drink every 15 minutes, and carry rain gear in all seasons. Wear a broad-brimmed hat with a chin strap and have warm layered clothing with you in the spring, fall, and winter. Ahead is Pipe Creek and Pipe Creek Beach. Watch the current that flows just out of the reach of that inviting sandy beach. It's posted for no swimming because a slip here can be as deadly as a fall off the rim. The water is usually very cold, the current strong, and regrettably, people have died here. Still, in the summer heat, hikers may need to cool off. But don't do it here. Use the Bright Angel Creek next to the campgrounds or ask the rangers for directions to a safe spot on the Colorado. At Pipe Creek Beach, you can stand on the polished black Vishnu schist at the bottom of the inner gorge and look up almost a mile through a crack in the schist to the south rim. Not a sight to miss. The hike along the Colorado River is the easiest and quickest part of the Bright Angel Trail. The trail turns south now and begins the real hike out of the canyon. It's 3.2 miles from Pipe Creek to Indian Gardens, and another 4.6 miles from Indian Gardens to the rim. The total change in elevation is 4,435 feet. Between the river and Indian Gardens, the trail climbs through the schist and granite of the inner gorge. You don't want to be on this section of the Bright Angel Trail during the heat of a summer day. On the way out in the summer, plan on getting through this section and into the shade at Indian Gardens before 10 a.m., then wait until 4 p.m. before hiking out. On the way in, get to the river before 10 a.m. or wait until 4 p.m. in the shade at Indian Gardens before hiking down through the inner gorge. You'll miss dinner at Phantom Ranch, but it's better than being barbecued yourself, as midday temperatures can reach 120 degrees Fahrenheit in June, July, and August. Hiking the Grand Canyon in the summer is like sunbathing in an oven, and it's a dangerous place to learn about the hazards of desert hiking. If you insist on hiking the canyon in the summer, review and understand the symptoms and treatment of dehydration, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. Stay out of the inner gorge. Consider short day hikes in and out, or hike along the rim. No matter what time of year you hike the canyon, it's important to make sure you are in adequate physical condition. There are two types of conditioning you need to do for the canyon. First is aerobic conditioning. As a rule of thumb, if you can't walk, run, skip, or crawl 1.5 miles in 12 minutes on flat ground, you need to improve your aerobic condition. But see your physician before beginning any exercise program. Second is sport-specific conditioning. The only way to get in shape for hiking many miles uphill and downhill with a heavy pack is to hike many miles uphill and downhill with a heavy pack. You can make up somewhat for poor conditioning by slowing your pace, staying hydrated, and eating right, but the canyon is much more enjoyable if you are in shape. Ahead of us is the weathered brown Tapete Sandstone. On top of the Tapete Sandstone is the Tonto Platform. It's easier to get a perspective of where we are on the trail from above. We're about here below the Tonto Platform, looking up here. The Tapete Sandstone is a special part of the trail. As you walk through the Tapete Sandstone, you're walking on a beach that existed 550 million years ago. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the ocean. New life is just exploding, but the land is empty. Nothing walks, crawls, or grows there. There's no grass, no trees, nothing is green. It's more barren than any desert. When you open your eyes, you'll see a different canyon. From the perspective of 550 million years ago, the canyon is not a desert at all. There's life all around. But remember that life in the canyon is delicate. In spite of its tenacity, it's easily damaged by carelessness. The rangers say that life in the canyon grows by the inch and dies by the foot, so be careful where you step. As we leave the Tapetes, you can see the awesome red wall. But don't get excited. That's not the rim. It's just the top of the red wall. Up ahead is Indian Gardens. Take a long look at these trees. See how big they are? From the rim, they look like bushes. Even when you've watched them while you hike out, you still won't believe they're full-size trees when you get there. Referring to the shape map, at Indian Gardens we've come through the inner gorge and partway across the Tonto Platform. From here it's 4.6 miles to the rim, about 5 hours of hiking time. As we look at this part of the trail, let's take a moment and summarize the points we've been discussing. First, the weather. One July afternoon, a thunderstorm parked over the south rim and in 2 hours dropped over 2 inches of rainfall. That's 1/2 inch more than the average rainfall for the whole summer in the last 20 years. In the cold rainstorm, several hikers got hypothermia and had to be drug out, but fortunately, there were no deaths. The point is, don't pay a lot of attention to weather averages. The canyon is subject to localized extremes in the weather anytime. Prepare for the worst. You'll never be disappointed. Second, energy. Plan your hike out. Pace yourself and eat correctly so that you have energy left when you reach the rim. It's safer and you'll enjoy it more. Remind yourself this may be the only time that you get to see the canyon. And third, but most important, water. Dehydration can cut your endurance in half and leave you exhausted before you reach the rim. Exhaustion is a dangerous condition in the canyon. An exhausted hiker is on the edge of a serious medical emergency. Don't let it happen to you. Do you recognize the red wall? As we approach the top of the red wall, we're a little more than halfway to the rim. Perched right on top of the red wall is the 3-mile house. And you guessed it, we're 3 miles from the rim, but the vertical climb is still 2,000 feet. The 3-mile house has water in the spring, summer, and fall, but it's turned off in the winter to avoid freezing the pipes. Very quickly, the rest stop is behind us, and there's a view of Indian Gardens. See any full-size trees? You'll notice on the hike out that most of the scenery is behind you to the north, but don't be too distracted by it. There's lots to see on the trail if you pay attention. If you're lucky, you'll get a glimpse of the local wildlife, and they'll get a glimpse of you. She's probably wondering why anyone would go all the way to the river when the best food is right here. As on the other trails, the Supai Hermit interval is visible at a distance. Look for the distinct slope, ending abruptly at the top of the Redwall Cliffs. The end of the Hermit Supai interval is close to the 1.5-mile house. Just above, you can see the distinct separation between the Coconino Sandstone and the Red Hermit Shale. Trail conditions can change dramatically in the winter, between October and the first half of May. It's not unusual to hike through a dry summer into a spring rain and winter storm, all on the same day. Instep crampons are a must this time of year. In the canyon, the end of the trail always comes too soon. No matter how far it seemed when you stood by the river that morning, suddenly you look up and it's there. As you stand on the rim looking back, reflecting on your journey, you come to realize that hiking the Grand Canyon imposes a special obligation on the hiker. Millions of people come to the canyon, but only a lucky few experience the canyon. To those few, the canyon is a special place, and it deserves our best protection. Ironically, that protection begins using caution to protect ourselves from the canyon. The clothes you wear are an important part of that protection. It's beyond the scope of this video to present a wardrobe for all seasons, but a short discussion about dressing for the dry, deadly desert heat is necessary. Dressing for the desert requires clothing that keeps the heat out and moisture in. From the top, protect your head and neck with a wide-brimmed or Foreign Legion-style hat that has a chin strap. Next, wear a long-sleeved, light-colored shirt and shorts to reflect the heat away from you. Less heat, less cooling, less water lost. Finally, use sunscreen on bare skin. Wear properly fitted broken-in hiking boots with ankle support and a steel shank. Do not wear open-toed sandals, as the grit from the trail combined with sunburned feet can ruin a perfect day. But protecting ourselves from the canyon is just the beginning. Protecting the canyon from ourselves is a little more complicated. The National Park Service Rulebook is your best guide for protecting the canyon. These regulations represent almost 100 years of experience at balancing use with preservation. So in closing, we'll cover the highlights. First, there are no trash cans in the canyon. Plan on packing out everything you pack in. Don't leave anything but footprints. And remember, you get double points for picking up someone else's trash and carrying it out. President Theodore Roosevelt said it best in 1903. Leave it as it is. You cannot improve on it. The ages have been at work on it, and man can only mar it. What you can do is keep it for your children, your children's children, and for all who come after you. That's still true today. Let's face it, try as they will, a few park rangers cannot pick up after 85,000 hikers, and it's not their job anyway. Second, don't feed the animals, either on purpose or by accident. Food is scarce, and trash that smells like food will be eaten by the animals. Unfortunately, the trash can clog their systems, and they starve to death, all because someone didn't pick up their trash. And feeding the animals can be dangerous to you. When a hungry animal sees you as a source of food, they may attack you to get it. A hungry deer can gore you to death for a cracker, and fleas from a friendly canyon squirrel may carry bubonic plague. Don't leave food unprotected even for a moment. In camp, use the sealed cans provided. On the trail, remember that the rodents know all the best picnic spots and watering holes. Third, avoid any action that puts rocks in motion, such as cutting across switchbacks or even throwing rocks. Falling rocks create more falling rocks, which can injure hikers out of sight, far below you. Don't even consider carrying a weapon into the canyon. No open fires are allowed in the canyon, and please, don't pick the flowers. There's one last thing. You'll see someone in trouble every time you hike the canyon. Be ready to lend a hand and some water when it happens. These short comments on National Park Service regulations are only meant to cover the highlights, and the rules are subject to change. For the most current information, read the Backcountry Trip Planner that the National Park Service will send you for free. And if you still have questions, ask a ranger at the Backcountry office before hiking in. All of these regulations may at times seem a little much, but when your children's children come to the canyon 100 years from now, and it's still just as beautiful, just as pristine, and just as magnificent, they can stop and thank the rangers and their rule book.